Bhadram karnebi shrnuyama devaha Bhadram pashyema kshabiryajatraha Stirairangaihi tushtuvagam sastanubhihi Vyashema devahitam yadayuhu Svastina indro vrdhashravaha Svastina pusha vishwavedaha Svastina starkshyo arishtanemihi Svastino brahaspatir dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Chapter 3, Section 1, Self-Realization Process. Verse 1. Two birds. Dva suparna sayuja sakaya samanam vriksham parishas vajate tayoho anyaha pipalam svadu ati Anashnan anyaha abhi chakashiti. Two birds hanging out on a tree. One of them eats fruits. The other one watches the bird who is eating the fruit. Now the tree here represents, what does a tree do? What's the nature of a tree? Growing, what else? You look at a tree now and you look at a tree tomorrow. It's not the same tree, is it? But it's still kind of a tree. Come back in autumn or winter, the tree is different. So the tree represents change. This tree is called Ashwatha. And we'll put branches. Bird 1, bird 2. And this tree we'll call Ashwatha. That which won't be there tomorrow. So this is the bird 1, the eater bird. And this is the watcher bird. What does the bird 1 represent here? We call it the jiva. Jiva in Sanskrit just means sentient being. It doesn't have to be human being, it can be a bird, it can be anything. Alive. Like a rock is insentient, it's not alive. And the bird is eating naturally fruits. We'll put an apple, we'll put a banana, and we'll put a pineapple. Yeah, imagine that, a tree with all fruits. That's the tree you want to eat from. No wonder bird 1 is relishing in the fruits. But some of the fruits they got worms inside. We'll put a worm there. Some of them are stale. So now when the bird 1 eats, the pineapple, it's fresh pineapple, it's top-notch quality. So it's plus, we'll put plus there. So that's pleasure, right? It's experiencing pleasure. And then he kind of gets bored with the pineapple and he goes, I want banana. So now it tastes banana and the banana is maybe not fresh, it's not ripe. He goes, yuck, it's bitter. So it's a minus. So it experiences a little bit of distastefulness, discontent, disappointment. Because to jump from this tree, from this branch to this branch requires some energy. It's maybe takes about 5 years for the bird to kind of find its way from one branch to the other. And then it's kind of satisfied. Now it has to jump and it has to risk falling as it falls down. And it jumps and it goes, I don't like banana, so I just spend 5 years chasing for a fruit that doesn't really give me what I want. Nearby, someone says, hey, have an apple, right? So, or have whatever, and then it kind of just jumps from branch to branch, risking its life because it can always fall. It can always get lost because there are, very tough branches and it's very hard to come out of them. And so you need to call somebody's help and, hey, save me, help me out. Now, most of the birds, right, the bird 1, they kind of want this experience. They want to go higher, to the higher branches, to the edge. I want the edge of life. So that's what most birds are doing. Some of them start out here, so bird 1 is over here, and then it jumps to the next branch, the next branch, the next branch, and they just sort of want these better branches, better experiences. Understandable. So it's going through a constant pleasure-pain cycle, and its whole life is about fruit. Now, every time it eats a fruit, there's a price to pay. And this price, it says, well, you're going to eat the fruit, but there's a consequence. Because you have taken something from the tree, and this will come back to you. You will be required to, there's a consequence of that. There was a nice fruit there, and you picked it off, and there's a consequence of that. So every time it relishes, understandably so, and this consequence affects the bird. No, it's still bird 1. Bird 2 is just chilling out, watching the whole show.
Okay. You talk about bird 1.
Bird 1, yeah. I have not talked about bird 2 at all now so far. So this is a lot of action is going on with bird 1. Experience. We call that the bird is going through life experience on an ashwatha tree that is designed to not be there tomorrow. So it comes back tomorrow and this whole branch has fallen off. No more branch. And it goes, oh no. My favorite branch is gone. And that's very painful for the bird. So it has to find some equivalent, right? And sometimes it kind of just jumps from branch to branch and it goes, you know what? I'm tired of this. Just jumping from branch to branch. They're all just the same branches. Fruits, more or less, they're going to be the same. Bitter, salty, sweet, pungent, and so on. How much different can you get? So it takes a long time for the bird to just figure out that this journey of experience and eating and consuming is okay, but there's a limitation to it. Meanwhile, continues the verse, the bird, the watcher bird, bird number 2, is the sakshi, which is the watcher. And it watches, so the watcher bird watches the first bird going through roles, such as the knower, right? The relisher or the sufferer, the experiencer, and the doer. Because also the bird 1 has to repair the branches. Sometimes it's given a job in the tree. Yes, no, repair this branch. So it takes a long time to repair the branch. So that's the doer. He has to constantly make home for itself because it's very crowded in this tree. Everyone's trying to compete in this tree, ashwatha. And so you have to kind of make your way. So bird 2 watches bird 1, and bird 2 further is untouched by what happens to bird 1, because bird 1 is going through all of the process. It's eating and, jumping and breaking branches and causing a little bit of, commotion. It's not intentionally, but that's just how it is. So bird 2 doesn't gain any karma pala. See the fruits? Fruits we call pala. Remember in our earlier verse how we said the potential is anam, food, that which is going to be consumed by the bird. And that's what it's doing. It's consuming the fruits. There's a little bit of a issue here. What do you observe? Like while we're saying this, bird 1 and bird 2. So now if you look at bird 2, which is consciousness, and bird 1, which is equated to the body and mind, it seems like they're two different things. Okay? So now, as long as they're two different things, the individual is going to think, I have to come out of the body-mind and experience or know myself as consciousness. So what do we have to do now? Between bird 1 and bird 2. We see the relationship. It is like the ornament and the gold. So there's no actual separation. So now let's see, how do we see that relationship?
Merge, they have to become one.
They don't have to become one, they're already one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bird, which one was it? Bird 1 has to recognize that. It's already bird 2. It just doesn't know that. But you also can't get rid of or discard bird 1, can you? Because you can't discard an ornament. If I discard the bangle, I'm discarding the the gold. So until we know satya mithya, this connection of ornament and gold, there's no way to get this at all. There's no way to arrive to oneness. Because we're always going to try to escape the ornament to get to the gold. So we have to understand that you don't have to do that. And the way to show that is through a satya mithya teaching. So let's start. What is science? Because science is also a valid means of knowledge. They also have satya mithya, but up to a certain point. So let's start with science. The main of science will say that your body is made up of many parts, many organs, lungs, spleen, heart, brain, arm, muscles, muscle fascia, veins, arteries. Let's take hand. So hand plus arm plus head plus brain plus leg. So many parts make up what we call body. So body is made up of many parts. It depends upon those parts. So we can say that hand is satyam. It is that which supplies the body, and body is mithya. It's dependent upon parts. So what have we established? The body is a name for many parts put together. Many parts make up body. Let's apply the exact same methodology and put the hand on this side. Hand is also mithya. It's made up of parts such as bone, blood, cells, proteins. You see, it's the same relationship now. So now the hand again is dependent. Which part of the hand do you want to take? Let's take a cell made up of parts, mitochondria, nucleus. Okay, so cell is now mithya. Mitochondria and all of the parts it depends on, right? They're all satyam. Let's take inside the nucleus. What's inside the nucleus? It depends on DNA. So now what does DNA depend on? Depends on molecules. A, C, G, T. So all this is your DNA strands, right? They're like long. Just imagine a long strand made of molecules. So A is a molecule and G is a molecule. It's called adenine and guanine. So now let's take one molecule. You know what a molecule is? Just a bunch of atoms put together. So let's put adenine. So now adenine is mithya. It depends upon carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. C5H5 and nitrogen 5. So 5 carbon atoms, hydrogen and nitrogen, 5 atoms. And then what about guanine? Same thing, plus 1 oxygen atom. That's the only difference that separates your adenine and guanine molecule. Just 1 oxygen atom changes the entire structure of the DNA. So now let's take an atom. Now atom becomes mithya, right? Because it depends upon electron, proton, and neutron. What makes up a molecule? Atoms. What makes up, nucleus? Well, DNA and its nuclear wall. What makes up a cell? Everything below. You see this? What makes up a hand? Everything below. What makes up a body? Everything below. So now, is it really a body if you look at it in parts? No, because it's made up of hand, it's made up of arm, head, leg, etc. Is it really a hand, since it's made up of cells and molecules? Do you really call it a hand? Hand is made up of many, 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 many parts. So what does this want to show? Anywhere you look, in any part you look, you can drill through deeper and deeper and deeper. In other words, there is no actual thing called body. There's no independent thing called body. Because body is just a name you give that's made up of parts. There's no actual thing called hand. Because hand is just a name you give for bone, blood cells, protons, neutrons, etc., that are obtaining in a certain form. There's no such thing called cell. If I look at a cell under a microscope, is it still a cell? It's only a cell when you zoom out at a particular distance and you go, a cell. There's a wall, there's a mitochondria, there's atomic nucleus. There's a nucleus, not atomic. Good, we're going to get there. It is an organization, yeah. So see what we're trying to show? That we give constant names in this world to things that have no independent existence. But in this inquiry, I want to show that that very body that's changing, is it really real? Because real means it stands independent of its own. It doesn't need anything else for its existence.
For me, the confusion is you call the part satyam and the whole mithya. The part, the hands, you call satyam.
Yeah.
And the body mithya.
Yeah. But now the hand becomes mithya and its parts become satyam. And then the bone becomes mithya and then the cells become satyam. But actually the cells are nothing but mithya because they depend, satya means dependent, they depend on molecules. But now molecules become mithya, they depend on atoms. Or maybe atoms is the last satyam in existence. That's what we want to get to the bottom at. We want to get to the final satyam. But then if you look at atoms, is it really the final satyam? No, because atoms, as we said, depends on, well, maybe the final substance is electron, proton, neutron. No, because thanks to science, we can say further, electron is just leptons, but put that aside. Proton and neutron is just quark up and down, which is not a tangible substance, but it is a probability. Now that's what we call quark, which is in mere probability. In other words, you don't know what it is until it takes on a value. This is what we call, right, superposition. Doesn't matter what it's called. Quark is not an actual tangible substance. It is a possibility. A possibility that when it takes a spin of up or a spin of down, and it takes a mass, so it takes a spin means up or down. It's either up or down. That's spin. And it takes a mass. Now, spin and mass is in mere probabilities. You can't see a quark. You have to wait, and then it takes on a value. Wait, it takes on a value. What does that sound like? Information. The concept of taking an up, the concept of taking a down, just the principle of up and down. What is that? That's information. But we'll get there. So now, if we look at a quark, if it takes on a value, what does that mean? It depends upon, now there's no value, now there's value. It depends upon time. Time is, and wherever there's time, there is space. So now we thought that the quark was the final satyam. Is it? No. So now the quark goes onto the mithya side. This is all mithya side, quark. And what goes on the satyam? Time and space.
Also saying the quarks are energy changing polarity.
Energy stays in polarity.
No energy changing polarity is what he said.
Energy is changing polarity. That would be under, I would say, probability. To change polarity of up and down, that is a concept.
What exactly do you mean by concept?
Okay, concept, let's get there. I'm getting there. Okay. I haven't got to concept fully. Okay. So maybe time and space is the final satyam. This is where science, the main of science, stops. So now it's our job in Vedanta to show you what else is there. Okay, so let's look at time and space. In the quantum physics, some quantum theory models, they're now saying that time and space comes from information. That's what they're saying. They're not quite sure, but information, or someone said blueprint. This is the science model right here. All science in the world can be put in this model. Now we can't stop here because we need to find the final building block of the universe. The domain of Vedanta steps in, and it makes two basic statements. It firstly says that if you look at an object, like a body, it loses its name. Why does it lose its form? Because it is made of parts. What can you infer through this relationship? Anywhere you look here, body depends on, hand depends on, cell depends on, nucleus depends on, DNA depends on, atom depends on, quark depends on. What can you infer by this relationship? You can ascertain one definitive fact. There is a cause-effect relationship throughout the entire model. We need to discover, is time and space the final cause? But let's suppose we say, let's do an experiment. Let's put time and space into an effect. Now, what do we ascertain about this? For every, there must be a cause-effect relationship. Now, if I don't see the cause, does that mean it's not there? No. Thus, Vedanta says it is because the cause of time and space is adrishta. It is invisible. And you don't have the means of knowledge to recognize it. Thus,
You can also say it is everything.
it is everything, but let's get to everything, step by step. So what I can ascertain is just because I don't see the cause of time and space doesn't mean it's there. We don't know what's before time and space. There was nothing. Well, that's just based on your postulation, because you can see through the model. You always have something come from something. You don't have something come from nothing. You can't have something come from nothing. So it's our job to discover what that is. That's where Vedanta steps in. So, what Vedanta says is, it makes a bold claim. It says it's intelligence. So we made a claim, and now we need to show that. We have to prove that every step of the way, you can eliminate body, cell, DNA, molecules, but intelligence always remains. So on one side, intelligence should always remain. If it's really the final building block of everything, it should always remain in the body, in the cell, in the DNA, in the molecules. Intelligence, that's a claim. We need to prove that. And on this side, we're going to put names and forms. Anvaya, that which remains, and that which can be cancelled out is called vyatireka. The lungs know how to deal with inhalation, exhalation of the air. Or the kidneys know how to filter waste. Your digestive system knows how to break down food. Why is your heart placed here and not in the most vulnerable spot where people will constantly target it? So there's a certain placement intelligence about every organ. Liver cell, just take a liver, which is made of cells. A liver cell knows how to produce enzymes. It knows how to, once again, purify blood. And it also produces 4 kinds of body fuels. Glucose for energy, glucogen, which is backup glucose, amino acids, which is called repair cells. That means when your cell gets damaged, another cell knows how to repair. Did that cell read a book? Fatty acids, which is long-term energy. So that means when you got no food, what kicks in? Fatty acids. That means it's something that you can still thrive off. So all of them have a different function: immediate energy, backup energy, repair, and long-term energy. They know how to do their function.
With knowing, I have a bit of trouble with that language. Can't you better say the intelligence is inbuilt or something?
Yeah,
Because
super.
They don't know it.
They don't know it, but they're programmed to do what they do. Now, who's the programmer? That's what we want to show. How about we take your DNA, which when it comes to a cell DNA in the skin, it makes your skin not affected by UV rays. So what does this mean? There has to be an intelligence in the DNA knows how to create skin that is, not penetrated by the UV rays. We take DNA for the muscle cell, and it knows how to make that cell contract and expand. Let's look at it at the level of the atom. When you have O2, that is oxygen, isn't it? That's what we breathe. O3, that's called ozone. Can you breathe that? All you're talking about is oxygen 1, oxygen 2. This you can breathe. Oxygen 1, oxygen 2, oxygen 3. This you can't breathe. This protects us against the sun. This is an entirely function for inhalation and exhalation. One atom, totally different function, CO2, that is breathable by the plants, and we exhale that. You take away number 2, you just have CO, that's called carbon monoxide. You just take one oxygen atom out, the plants can't breathe that anymore. Do the atoms design themselves? Do they just sort of decide on their own? Just gonna chill out, let's hang out, together.
Atomic party.
Let's just come together and just randomly create things. The universe is too complex for that to happen. So what can you appreciate throughout this? Everywhere I can put anything on this side, atom, particle, this, that, kidney, you can see not only is it number one, intelligently put together, because a kidney, if you look at a kidney, the cells, the way they arrange themselves to create the shape of the kidney, and the cells arrange or proteins to create the shape of a heart, they know that. The intelligence is built in. So cancer cells are made of molecules. That's when amino acids, you could say, are overpowered by the malignant cells. There's just not enough repair.
It sort of loses its intelligence because it's not working.
Well, okay, good, but it's just like saying, because it's too late. The work has already started. It's too great to be repaired. So there is intelligence, but can you really say that intelligence is causing cancer cells? It is causing cancer cells, but is it having an intention to cause cancer cells? No, because a cancerous cell is just atoms, the very same atoms that design everything else. So it's not like intelligence is now, punishing the person. Intelligence is just offering itself, manifesting as an atom, a particle, a molecule. And at the level of the larger, as you go up, if you don't give the right food to the body, then the cell cannot repair itself. Thus, it cannot function properly, and thus cancer comes. So intelligence simply provides itself. Things manifest, and they function within a certain order, but that order can be spoiled through different foods and environment and so on.
Because we say with the mind we like that and we don't like that, but it is just intelligence. It is what it is. There is no good or bad.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. Yeah, I just keep saying that intelligence is the building block. I can't find a kidney, because if I look deeper into a kidney, what do I find? Just made up of parts. I can't find a cell. If I look deeper into a cell, I can't find a cell. I find molecules. If I look into molecules, I can't find a molecule. I find atoms. If I look into atoms, I can't find a atom. I find proton, neutron, electron. If I look into just a proton, I can't find a proton. I find probabilities. If I look into probabilities, what's after? Well, we make a statement. It is intelligence. Because did you notice in the previous chart how we went smaller and smaller and smaller, how we went from like solid body. And then as we went down, not only did we go smaller, but we went subtler and subtler and subtler.
But nothing to sing, it is an organization. So that's what it's the whole thing. No kidney exists without the higher thing.
Yeah.
Anything is dependent on the other one. There's no cell.
So what Navya just showed me is that not only do you have a kidney digestive organ, but everything at the bottom is well organized to form a cell. The cells are well organized to form a heart. And a heart is well organized together with kidneys, digestive system, and everything else to create a fully working body. So what Simon is saying is, amongst all these well put together parts, they put themselves together also based on evolution. So for example, liver, how long did that take to produce? It took like a couple of billions of years to even call something a liver. So now you add another aspect that allowed time, enough time for liver to even have its right chance in the right moment of time. That took time itself. So there was an intelligence, first building the first cyanobacteria, then moving into a little, amoeba, and then next, in fact, a single cell organism. It started like that. That's how life started, single cell organism. From that single cell, it took time for more complex multi-organism cells to form, eventually to start to adapt to the environment, to go, oh, now that cyanobacteria has added extra oxygen to the atmosphere, now the intelligence responds and says, for that we need lungs that's able to absorb oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. So our lungs are only a product as a result of the oxygen in the atmosphere. You see how intelligence is constantly shaping itself to accommodate the new need for life to thrive. So we want to show that intelligence is not choosing to do it, it just responds based on the constant cause and effect relationships that are ongoing constantly.
So there's no conflict between evolution and intelligence, actually. That's the beauty of Vedanta. There's never a conflict. It goes together.
Yeah. It doesn't, in other words, being a monkey doesn't contradict it. It just...
like the intelligence evolution discussion, yeah?
Yeah, it doesn't contradict it. There's no conflict at all. Yeah.
Science fits in.
Hmm?
All scientific knowledge is just a part of what Vedanta is showing us.
Yes, which is why we're adding the scientific model. Yeah. Yes?
It depends on the time. So when the potential is going to depends on.
It depends.
It's everything, but
Yeah.
it is their potential, and then when the time is ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it entered the atmosphere and struck around New Mexico and dinosaurs got wiped out, if that didn't happen, the whole intelligence would have postponed, a functional thinking human being. So in other words, intelligence just keeps on presenting itself, constantly reshuffling to form the particles, and then the particles intelligently reshuffle to form protons and neutrons. Protons and neutrons intelligently put themselves together to form an atomic nucleus, the center of the atom. And then you have an electron. So you have an atomic nucleus, right, which is made of proton and neutron. That's the atomic nucleus. And then you have a cloud of electron. Now, did you ever wonder what decides how far this cloud is from the atomic nucleus? It is said that if the electron was 1% more charged or less charged, or the quark had 1% less or more mass, then it would not be an atom. Yeah, so even within the DNA general structure, because we all share a general common DNA, amongst, just like we have general fingerprints, but we also have a individual fingerprint. Yeah, so in that sense, that's another design of intelligence that every person is going to have an individual fingerprint, but also an individual DNA. That's what causes individuality. That's another design.
You said something about when this meteor came and all the dinosaurs were wiped out.
Yeah.
If that had not happened, then maybe there would never be conscious beings.
We discuss in other Upanishads, there is a general 5-sensory system that is built for all creatures, and all creatures eventually get wiped out, and that 5-sensory system, that thinking system, eventually is now more, less bound to the point where you're able to ask, who am I? That's how the universe is designed. It just takes a matter of time. So we could have not been here, but you still would have gotten a chance for this knowledge. You just have to wait a little bit longer. In fact, you were waiting a little bit longer when 4.6 billion years ago, you were like this. Okay. Last creation, I didn't attain moksha, now I gotta wait. Okay, now I don't want to be... Oh, amoeba. Oh, I gotta go inside an amoeba now. A worm. Okay, I'll go inside a worm now.
It's an eternal process.
Yeah. Oh, now I gotta go inside a chimp. Bananas. Oh, now I'm gonna go inside a Homo sapien. Make fire. Now I can use language. Becomes more advanced. As Simon said, through evolution, we develop even sounds, and we turn those sounds into intelligent communication. So it's built in, the way to communicate. It's within all animal kingdom. And then human beings develop an intelligent communication system to communicate subtle truths. Thus we call our humanity manushas, thinking beings. The point is, it's already, the template is already there. It's just a matter of time for that template to take hold, and you just need to wait. So how many creatures have you already been inside? A lot. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.